Good day, everybody. Lady Hippy here. I've actually ventured outside today. That's an unusual thing in my house these days. Hope everybody's enjoying this spate of warmer weather. I'm ready for it. I can tell you that. Mm. As usual, I peruse YouTube. I should just say, and see what I see and what I want to watch or what I want to listen to. Here in the I just say the city I'm in. And I loved their bill because it was always the same every month. We used to pay 3 or 4 months at a time and send it and not worry about it. And then suddenly, after about 7 years of being here, we got a charge on it that says stormwater charge. And I thought, what's this? And it was $10, $11. So it would make the bill go from the 30 that had been for 7 years to 40, almost $50. And so, of course, I called. I was like, how do I, why am I being billed for storm drainage or there hasn't been any storms here. She said, no, maybe not yet, but we have to charge that charge. It's based on the footprint of your properties, and we have to charge that. And I said, oh, okay. I'm not sure how these things work. So she's just the puppets. I can't get mad at her. And you can see I'm still using two screens, trying not to. It's a little difficult. Um, so I said to the young lady, I said, well, how long will we be paying this extra charge? She said, that's indefinitely. I said, really? Why didn't you put on the thing and just say stolen this amount every month? Because I have no service for this. It's not water I've used. It's maybe if it storms. And they kept it at that. It was, well, that's what it is kind of thing. If you want water, you got to do that. There's only one water company, of course. This was, again, about 3 years ago. You can't drink the water here. You can't cook with the water here. You can't give the animals water here. There is a foot of crud in all these pipes. This home was built, this entire subdivision was built in 85. And nobody's done anything to the water pipe system. Now, I don't know if anybody caught this, and I caught this about a year ago. They showed one that was having to be repaired. And I kid you not, you know how big these things, these concrete things are. It had maybe that much room instead of this. It had about this much. Instead, there was mold, mildew, coldness, and I mean, it was just the worst thing I've ever seen. And I've always been terrible about drinking water. And my son and Robert was, fussing. I'm not getting any younger at me for not actually drinking any of the water. I said, this doesn't taste right. And as you can tell, I'm a little older than most of you. And so I used to love getting water out of the well. It was crystal clear blue, cold as ice. It was just so wonderful. It was one of the benefits as I was going to vacation with my parents because they even had an outhouse. They did not have indoor plumbing nor indoor lighting. So you had the lamps and the outhouse and this, but the water I loved. And so there and at my aunt's, they both had wells. For years, I tried drinking water from everywhere else. Just couldn't do it. So I started doing other things like making Tang have water in it. I'm still trying to sacrifice. So and coffee, when I finally could after my middle 30s, was again, well, it's heated up. I'm sure it's good too. Crap, we can't even. You can't even boil this stuff and use it. It's got so much wrong. There's many people that have done the test to see what's in a particular brand of water, say Evian. They'll do all of them that are being sold in whatever state they're in. And you would not believe what is in the water. Now, I had a problem when they added fluoride. I don't know if anybody knows. I do. You take a drop of iodine, a drop, and you put it in this big vat that's going to give everybody water for, say, 100 to 200 people. It will kill every one of them. That's how deadly fluoride is. It's deadly. They also seem to allow a certain amount of what are called heavy metals. Now, I'm not sure what that is, but it's not good for us. I'll go with that. And at first, I argued with Robert, and I make my coffee and all this. It wasn't until I saw this uh, particular pipe that they had taken apart. The pipe had been installed in 96. 96. Ours, I don't even know how if they were there before the homes were built. We don't know, but there's no way we can drink that water. And even if you say we have a filter, the pure filter that's on the tap itself, and I thought about maybe I'd get one of the pure pitchers as well. I run it through that, and I'm like, we're paying all this extra money for water we can't drink. Really don't want to bathe in it because your skin absorbs these things like fluoride in certain heavy metals. So you don't want to drink, you don't want to bathe in it. You don't want your cats or dogs to have it. It's ridiculous. But you call them and you say, hey, is anybody going to address the situation that none of these pipes have been replaced and there's God knows what growing in them coming into our taps? They're going to tell you they will send you over to somebody that can help you with that problem. And if you want to stay on there, you can. I've been on there as long as 45 minutes with it on record and out where everybody could hear it. So, of course, finally the line just goes, and you're not going to get an answer here. So, luckily, my son and I have it. I used to be Robert and I were members of Sam's Club, and Sam died, and we were lifelong members. And when Sam died, all of us lifelong members, when we came in and they got our card, they took our card and come back with a different card and said it would be $35 and be good for the year. Well, we handed the card back and said, excuse us, we don't need to shop here anymore. And I haven't been back. I think that was the ugliest thing to do to people. And then don't tell them till you're in line, here, it's going to cost you an extra 30. No, it's not like I didn't hand the $35. I'm just like, no, call 911. I want to report you for theft. So this is the problem with the water system here now. So of course everything is on bottled water. With my son also he stays up at a big box store. I won't use the name. And every once in a while I'll ask him to bring a set of water and a thing of paper towels. Now the paper towels, I'm not kidding you. I have to use my entire storage shed to get them in there. There's so many. And the water, what I use per day, I know now that I have to have one of those sets of water. I see my cats just driving me crazy behind me. But we end up getting the big package of the water, and that will last a month most of the time. So he's good about getting that for me, bless him, because he's there buying other things as well. So I said, thank goodness for that. But why are we all not saying something about this? So I called the reporter at our local news station and asked for the reporter that does stories on things like this. And I waited, of course. And pretty soon here come the I'm like, okay, so they're not going to cover this. That investigative reporter doesn't want to see this. So I'm like, okay, you can only find City Hall so far. You can ask the question. And at least the one girl at the water board was like, fair with the indefinitely part. It's like, so we're just going to give you free money for nothing. I get it. And at this point, I'm like, I would rather have my own well. But of course, if you try to do something like that, again, you're taking down the city, and who wants to bother with all that at our age? So we just buy the water and pay the light bill and pray when we shower that soap interferes with everything else that's trying to get out there. I see that we're still holding strong with Israel, but it seems to be a bigger problem than I thought as well. I don't know what's going on right now. I can't make heads or tails of it, and I don't like political things. Channels and all that. Again, we don't vote the president in. The Electoral College does that, and everybody knows this. And they run out and vote after the Electoral College has voted and said, this is the new president. You go out months later and stand in the snow to vote. Why? Google it. Just Google it. It will tell you that the Electoral College votes in the president. Now, supposedly that electoral college is representing we the people. I'm going to use we in the royal term here. We the people have already decided. Well, we the people didn't get to vote yet. And even if we did, they'd have hanging chads like with Bush. They know Gore won that. They won it hands down. But they came up with the Florida was hanging chads, and that was the only state he really lost by, pretty much. It's like, but they're still trying to run Trump through because he happened to call Georgia and say, "Hey, get some more people out there. I need some. I need some more votes." You just can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. The educational systems down here are not. They're not only not adequate rather. They're an insult to every parent that sends their child to them. We had two that went. Uh, it's horrific. I know maybe you missed that one where I said that my son at eighth grade graduation, the principal handed out, well, was about to hand out the diplomas, but first she read green eggs in hand and then started calling names. And it took several people, including my husband, to get me off the bleachers and outside. I was so happy with that. We even had to buy new clothes. They had to have new shirts and different pants and fancy shoes and stuff. And you guys are working on two jobs already just to keep them and their friends fed. So she's reading green eggs and ham. I'm like, I'm going to end you right now. They could order cutoffs to this crap. And my son sees them dragging me out, and he's dying. It's the funniest thing he's saying. He's like, "Oh, Mom's mad," and he was mad. Oh, the whole eighth grade, we were just mad, but they were. It's the word I'm looking for. They were embarrassed. They felt that it was a definite insult to all of them. How they didn't stand up in a body and walk. I'd have walked. Graduate or no, you can mail me that crap. I'm not. This is freaking July and 120-degree bleacher section that has no air conditioning and one door open. The one door they managed to drag me out of. They had another one coming up. So. But they did, they've done well, and now they're in their 40s, which again dates me. So my son's great. He tends to spoil me here and there. So you really can't see what I'm wearing, but I'm wearing the cutest dresses shoes that Robert bought for me for Christmas. Little quarter-inch sleeves, and it's the long type 50s dress, and a new pair of shoes. And I just adore these shoes. So I had fun. I ran uptown. We get out a lot. So we have a family dollar, and I think I've spoken about this too. But we used to like to go there to get our Dawn, whatever it was we had to get. And then when the pandemic came, it was just easier to get everything at one thing because you had to wear a mask. And for me, I can't breathe through the mask because I have slight asthma, which isn't doing well when I smoke one of my cigarillos. But I do promise my husband that I won't go too far. And I don't want to go too far because things don't go well if I do. So I'm like, okay, get all this done. And I'm feeling good, got the window down. I'm singing to the radio. I'm like, why does this guy keep coming up next to me? I mean, it's like, I've got a little Chevy Cruze. I love this. After the Honda hood raised while I was driving, which was a hell of a lot of fun, and shattered the windshield and was stuck over the roof. And I managed to jump up and get that done and limp home. But Robert is so good. He had the windshield repaired, he had fixed the hood, and had already bought me the Chevy Cruze. And he had already gotten the insurance switched, got the tag, everything within a 24 hours. I don't know how he does it. That's why his friends call him MacGyver. But I love my Chevy Cruze. Now, in the period of time since I moved here, I've owned, I think, 4 Cadillacs and now a Honda. I think it's 4 Cadillacs. It's 3 or 4 Cadillacs and a Honda. So I'm really going through cars. I don't know how he puts up with that. But I loved my first Honda that I had when I came down. It was great. It was the older one, 97, 96, 97, the big old boats, but she was so smooth. And she had the support in the back. So with the injuries to my back, I could drive comfortably in there. And Robert has done the same for me in the cruise. He's got me a pad so, it doesn't hurt my back so bad. But he is their MacGyver here in the city. Again, I'm not going to mention which city. You just never know. I doubt anybody would want to hurt a gossiping old lady, but they could have seen me in a bad day. Again, everybody got to remind you, this is for entertainment purposes only. And so that's right. I'm going to be here the rest of the week. Hey, yeah, no cover. Throw a like in there, comment in the comment section, anything, throw whatever you want to in there. I'd love to be able to pick a different subject these days to opine about. And so far, I try to run in and do it around 12, 1 o'clock. So I'm really going to have to lock a channel in. It's just I can't seem to particularly get 1 hour away. And I'm retired. There's just no excuse for this. But every day is the same. I'm rushing to try to get my podcast done. But at the same time, for me to clean the house, I used to do it all in one day on the weekend. And now I have to do a little at a time through the week. And even after I do that little at a time, and Robert helps, then I can't move. My back is that easily thrown up. And then that's a bad thing because I'm literally on bed rest on a heating pad supported up high, and very little can I get done when that's going on. And so it's also nice that he's home retired too, because I can yell ow and he'll come help me. So I don't want to abuse that. It looks like Robert's, I see, not on my live chat, but he's been coming up on Facebook, so I'll have to check that there. I try to go ahead and post these on over to Facebook. I can't, I think a lot of people, because I haven't got a set time yet for my channel, so I don't have they don't have time to come to see me live. And so I try to run through a little edit process real quick, which usually takes me a day. I'm so learning this, but I really love this. If I could have had this when I was young, there'd have been no stopping me for nothing. Wouldn't even slow down. They wouldn't have known a person went past. I'd have passed the flash. It was. Then I heard some other, besides the chemtrails people. Now, again, talking about the heavy metals there, so look those up. There is a way to purify your liver and detox. As far as water, I think in any city, town, county, I don't care who you are, where you're at, you either can ask the company, can you see inside one of those when they're working on it? Or you can take it from the rest of us that are going through this. Those pipes have been there for decades. And they've not done anything to change them. So you've got a little bit of water coming from a great big thing because it's got this much stuff all around the pipe, all the pipes. I think I've seen sewage dumpage that wasn't that bad. I was like, oh my God. Your gag reflex starts to work. It can't be good at all if that's what's happening. The other thing I said, okay, I get the kitty food and we do that. And it costs Robert a fortune. And now luckily I'm retired, but it just does, the bills go up like with the water board. I went from 3,000 gallons a month every month, like clockwork, to suddenly 9,000 gallons a month. And I'm like, I don't even have as many plants to water, whereas this country, I used to take a lot more baths because I had to soak in Epsom salt, and I try not to do that unless I have to now because of the junk in the water. It's not because I can't afford the water bill, but we know for a fact we didn't jump from 3,000 to 9,000 gallons in a month, and it stays at 9,000 gallons now. So that $30 bill went to 40, and the $40 bill doubled. So we're now paying 80 for water we can't drink and don't want to stand more than. I do an army bath in the shower. I'm out, So Robert usually asks me, "Did you get wet?" So I mean, I can get in and out of there. I need to see my. I see from here. I need to see my hairdresser again. Robert likes it longer. It's just I'm an old woman, and I need to keep it further up. It's easier to take care of. I think that way. I don't know if any of you like to see anything about ancient things like the pyramids, but we have several. Billy Carson is one. You can check his website, and he's still putting together a. Anyone who wants to go, you can go with him, and they'll help you make the arrangements and stuff. Very, very low fees, and he's really great. I would love to do it. I'm just too old. But if you're interested in doing that, and yet being with the same group of people that you can talk to because you know what a UFO really is, or as some people call them, fast walkers. And then I mean, when the Navy throws, footage out there and the guys in the F-14, so they've got it in their tracking system. They're going, look at that thing, look at that thing. They're not trying to fire or nothing. Just look at that thing. He's my favorite pilot. Look at that thing. So, but it's so bad that the military actually released this information. So I was wondering if anybody thought anything about that. I have a lot of thoughts on that myself. Very interesting ones. I'm trying to remember the major's name that wrote a book about all the stuff they wrote of the Roswell incident. I remember getting my first transistor radio, and this thing was like a boom box, and it took those big D batteries, and you had to put 8 D batteries in it, and that was the little thing. But just to take that radio, and you could go down. Everybody hung out at either one of the houses, or one of the parks, till parents threw them out, whatever. And so we would use. A couple of us had them. So you would turn it on, and it would last about 40 minutes. The batteries cost $22.50. So about 40 minutes later, it was off. But it also had a cord, so you could use it electrically. So at home, I used the cord, and so I could. And then when mine went out, the next guy or girl would put theirs on because we knew the batteries would hold it very well. But that was my first transistor radio. This is for the 70s. And transistors was something that they learned. Fiber optics also was from supposedly this crash. See, night vision. We got some good night vision now, I got to say. Kevlar. All this stuff supposedly what they did was, and I got Corso. Major Corso wrote this book. If I were thinking I could put in what the name of the book was, but it's Major Corso. I think it says, I think the name of the book is After Roswell. But what he did, and they kind of put him in charge of this stuff. You can't tell America because the citizens will panic. I'm like, okay. So, panic to what? I'm panicking just getting to Walmart. Why add to it? So they get all these little things, and the lasers. All of this is back engineered supposedly. So what Corso did, Major Corso, he farmed this out because you can get a Freedom of Information Act, and you can find out supposedly. There's a lot of black ops. I'm sure it will be redacted. You couldn't read them anyway, but they're supposed to be able to release whatever you ask for under the Freedom of Information Act. So they were wise to get around that. They sent it out to civilian companies. And you had, all these guys. It's really well, Caltech and surrounding areas suddenly went up so fast. Apple, all that stuff, chips. That was new. They didn't know anything about that. So, I mean, we would still be plugging in a radio instead of yelling at the Google to do this or that. So, anybody else remembered that one or the Battle for Las Vegas? No, Los Angeles. It was Los Angeles in the 40s when the war was still going on. And then you can see something. I mean, they got it all hit with the headlights or whatever you call those things, searchlights. And they've got ACAC out there, and they are beating this thing. They're hitting this thing. Nothing happened. It turns out, I think 3 civilians died from falling shrapnel, but I couldn't verify that. It might have only been 2, but a couple of civilians did die. And of course, then they tried to say it was something. I don't know, that there was no reason for them to shoot. You can obviously see, and they're all shooting, and the searchlights are all the same process. I mean, there's no searchlight over here and up here and down here. No, they all converged on this one point. So obviously they can see something. You can see it when it's lit up too. But it was like they were up there going, look, they're using bullets. And this was the 40s, okay? This was the 40s. Now, mind you, we went from a horse and buggy to purportedly, we're not sure there's a conspiracy there, to standing on the moon. 75 years. Horse and buggy, you're on the moon, you're on another planet. 75 years. What happened to the other 5,500 now, whatever, 30 years? We didn't learn nothing. I just learned how to calm the horse. Hey, really, I don't think people are that silly. I don't think, can't come up with things. Another thing I saw was the guy had made a car, and it was a nice car. It looked like a Lamborghini, but I can't be positive. And I just saw this today, it was this morning. He had finally managed to figure out a way to run his car on water. And he had a big water tank that was installed in the back where the trunk was, and all kinds of pipe and stuff under it. But it worked. And he'd been doing it for some time. Other people, word of mouth. And the police actually came, or maybe it was the FBI, but the government came and took his car. And I can't remember what he said their excuse was, but they took his car. And a few days later, he was called and said he could come back and get his car. So he did. He came back and got his car, and he got home, and he found there was no longer running on water. Now it ran on gas, and it was not to be changed. This poor guy, I worry about him. I hope he just lets it be, because they found these things out decades ago. They found out several times. I even heard that, I can't think of his name now, but one of them's got it on something that makes it faster than just about anything else on the street. But you can't keep those, because either you disappear, or you suicide, you have a car accident, all your stuff leaves. Nobody knows what you're talking about. I mean, a lot of stuff that we get is because the government has used it for 20 or 30 years. So now it's just to make more money. And they're making a lot of money. I saw this morning Robert came downstairs with his phone, excuse me, to show me that they were getting tsunamis in California. And I thought, oh my, tsunamis would not be caused by the San Andreas Fault. They have a Cascadia line all the way across that coastline up into Oregon, or I don't know. The entire coastline is called the Cascadia line. The Cascadia doesn't do what an earthquake does. What happens with the Cascadia, it loosens up, say, half a mountain underwater. And when it does it will hit the entire coastline, whatever amount it has fallen in. It could be 100-foot wave. It could be a 10-foot wave. No one really knows, but they do know that they've occurred before, and they say that it's due. So, and along those coastal cities, anyway, they have to be. They actually drill for it. Run the kids and so forth. They try to put high schools and so forth way up high, but you could only do so much in some cities as far as getting further inland and up high, because they don't know how far it will come in or how big it'll be, but it will be big. So they're watching the Cascadian line as well. And if the San Andreas goes, not that it's not a problem, it's a problem. If the San Andreas goes, there's going to be a whole lot of problems. They built Chinatown on the rubble from the last great earthquake in San Francisco in the 1900s. So they made this like landfill. And then they made it look like it does today, and through the Chinese merchants down there. And so they're in an area what is called liqueduction. It's called several things, but it basically turns into sand that eats you, quicksand. You can't get it out. You can't get out yourself. It's like quicksand. So everything's going to go in areas like that. And they did have certain code standards they were going by, but they're saying those have not been being followed up very well. And the San Andreas is overdue for a major earthquake. We're getting them all around the United States as well, areas they're not supposed to be in. The Ring of Fire is literally on fire. Yeah, I can't make this up. It's just, and that's just this a week's news. It's like what, Wednesday? No, I think it's Wednesday, Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. I get confused as I retire. I like that. I saw a whole pod of whales. That's what they're called, but this looked like 3 or 4 pods. And I had heard just last month that I think there was 20 odd whales had beached themselves. They managed to save, I think, 7 or 8, but the rest they couldn't save. They wouldn't get wet. They wouldn't stay wet. They wouldn't get back in the water. They're trying to push them. And this has happened many times, and usually they can do something about it, try to save the animal, but they did save 8 of them. But at the same time, I saw one that had passed away, and it was literally full of plastic garbage. That's what had killed it. Because when they eat something, it's like the whole expanse of water they'll take in at once. So this was so polluted that it killed the poor thing. And that's not the only problem, I don't think. Not sure what these chemtrails are for. They had a pilot come on and say, yeah, those are chemtrails. And you do need to stop using them. They're changing the atmosphere and they're killing the generations that this falls on from the rain. It does bring rain. And even if it doesn't, what we're dropping out of the sky will get to you. It's in the air. So I'm not sure who's pushing this agenda. Everybody's been calling, for green effects and this, that, and the other. That's not the problem. And the problem isn't fossil fuels, although I would think they'd find a better way to get around now. These bullet trains look like fun. That was the one fun thing you could do in Europe. You could just drive 300 miles an hour. Well, you better, because somebody's going to run over you if you don't. Yeah, so it was really weird to get here. And everything was 55 miles an hour back when I was in my 20s. And, back then you'd walk up and to hear Cat Williams telling, he tells it much better, but you'd walk up and you get ready to get your $20, put that, nozzle in there and click it. So start running. You'd have time to clean your windshield, empty your ashtray, all that. About a couple of minutes, it would finally go click, and there's your $20. And you would go in and pay. He said, nowadays, it's so bad that I don't hardly even turn it on. I just run in, I throw $20 at him and say, $20 and pump 10. Because it's so bad. I didn't tell him as well as Cat did, but it's one of my favorites that he does. And Cat's really amazing anyway. I like him. I've been also checking out that bit of rivalry. We'll put it that way. Some of these people are not happy with him. They're not happy with a lot of the rap stars that are now having problems. What was that boy on the 70s show? I can't think of his name, but he got life. I'm like, wow. Because I love that show. It was the 70s show was just exactly the way we grew up. I loved it because they was always in the basement of the particular parent's house. Well, that's the way it was with me and my best friend and her brother. They lived one house over from me. And he had put a pool table down there and everything for him, but the teenagers took it over. So we were always in their basement, even after we grew up and I went back home on leave and stuff. It was, they're at Boy Denise's basement, or they were at the bar at People's, which was another fun thing. Back then days, you didn't have to call 4 people and find out. It wouldn't have done you any good. You couldn't get a phone. Even if you could get through the phone at your house, you'd be having to say to your parents and explain why you're calling somebody. That was just, you couldn't just pick up the phone at my house and call somebody. You could not do that. You had to say, oh, I'm calling Denise or I'm calling Karen. And they would go, well, why? They're like a house over and a house next door, right? And you're like, well, I'm going to ask them about what they wanted to know about today's homework, because Basically, I was like Sheldon, and I was always 2 or 3 grades ahead, but I didn't actually skip grades, but I go through all their work too, just to, oh, for stickers. I was bored a lot. As- so, I mean, I'm calling Karen about today's assignment, and she said, no, you're not going to catch. No, I've been catching on you. You've been giving them girls some answers. Or some such thing. They would have some excuse. Usually it was, that you have to keep the phone free because daddy works nights, or someone said they'd call me, one of the uncles, whatever. So kids didn't get to, if you said you were calling your friend across the street, well, you can go over there to see your friend across the street, get the phone. The other thing they did was they didn't do doctors or dentists. If you had a problem with your teeth, your well, my dad would get you a little glass of Jack Daniels and get you to hold that in your mouth. Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but when you're holding something and you're eventually going to swallow, and so of course that felt much better after you had a headache. Again, there'd be a little snifter or something. You just and some chamomile tea. Most of these remedies work. You're out riding your bike and half your leg falls off. You're not going to the hospital. They're going to put a mercurochrome on that, pick a big bandage or two, and wrap you up. There you go, and back outside. I don't know what they would have thought of this technology. They had both passed away. The cell phones were out, but not too many people had them. Most still had beepers up until like 93, 94. Robert was on uh, a phone, I think in 89, because he got me to do it 90 or 91, something like that. And he's had me on a phone ever since, which I used to hate because at first anyway, uh, that's part of my job, running a division was grabbing phone lines because everybody else is pretending they're deaf. So you'd grab it because it might be the head doctor for that floor or whatever. And there's many times I worked at hospitals and so forth. And so I was like, okay. I mean, and if you did call, this is after you've grown up and people have, the cell phones and the beepers. And literally here in the South, I can't make this up. If you called a block down the street on the other side of the street, it was considered long distance. And they pounded your butt for that. Always AT&T. By the way, AT&T is still my bell, which they supposedly broke that configuration up sometime before the 70s. They were going through it in the 70s. My bell was too big. There had to be a rival. Suddenly, you had this. Well, you don't have that with your gas, your lights, and your water. You got one, you got to pay them. It's just so. But then I found out, the AT&T was my bell. And now I'm not happy because we've had Straight Talk for 15, 20 years now, and we like him. It's unlimited. It's $45 a month. But Verizon took over just a month or two ago. So I'm hoping we don't get the same deal that we did when Sam Walton died and took away our right to shop there for life, even though they didn't charge you $35 back then because you were getting the card to shop for life. So it was like the $150 platinum card kind of thing, wasn't cheap. And it wasn't long after we got ours that unfortunately he had crossed over. So you have to take care of those. But the cell phone bills were enormous, absolutely enormous. You didn't get the smartphones till 2010. And they're smarter than me. I swear, those phones. I mean, I'm always trying to figure out what to do with one of those things. So I just use it as a phone. Even up until I say a year or two ago, I was bringing my digital camera and using it, not the camera in the phone. I don't know why. I thought the pictures came out better, if you ask me. And then I'll leave it about, or I won't run to Walmart and process the pictures, because they're still doing that thing. If the pictures didn't come out well, they're blurred, it's half black, you're still paying for the picture. I love that part. So here you're paying extra water to buy water as well. You're paying them extra to give you water that's just full of yuck. And then you have to buy water, so that's on top of that. Your gas bill has doubled. I hate this word pandemic because all these things have been happening. Everything has been rising steadily since the freaking pandemic quit. We come out of it, and now they got something called Omicron. Or Omicron, I don't know. It's one of those plagues. But you can get Tamiflu, and I forget the other one. But within a day or two of your symptoms, and you won't suffer as much. I'm like, you can't find one that'll just stop that. You got to find one that says, oh, okay, if you come in within X amount of time, this will help lessen your illness. I'm like, oh, God. The other one I think that's absolutely cracks me up. Your wellness check. You're not sick, but you need to see your doctor to make sure that you won't get sick. And I'm like, okay, how many doctors? And I know I used to put the test together in UT Health Science Center for students, and they graded on a curve. Honey, they graded on a curve that was so sharp you about ran off the paper. And these were your future doctors. I mean, seriously, and this was the late '90s. So, I worked again at the state fair. We helped to build that. Robert was in the construction part. He was, the one that used the heavy equipment. And I dealt with the office. I had three architects out there, but they didn't half the time come down to Georgia. And no, they weren't even in Georgia. They were some other states. So you're having to deal with all that, deal with these people that have problems with doing that because it rained the whole time because you still got to pay them. But the state fair was worth it after all. And we're both happy to find that it came out well. And we went the first 20 years. Rennie, get down. See, usually if we just point the bottle at one of them, they're good to go. I mean, my poor roses. I just love my roses. These fell out so pretty. I don't even think they're in the picture on this one, but here, we'll do this. We'll sneak one over. They're rather heavy. They're lovely. The light just shines off, and I love the fragrance. Where was I? Oh, probably more about them taking us for a ride and also, giving us every disease known to man. They've proved for a fact that we actually paid for COVID-19. We paid WHO, the World Health Organization, and then they used that Chinese lab, and apparently I think we actually paid their salaries, I'm not sure, to make this COVID-19. And nobody knows how it escaped the lab. But you couldn't call it the Chinese flu. You could say Spanish flu to cover the 1919 outbreak, but you couldn't say they had to say COVID-19. It's the China virus. I'm just sorry. Now they have it's expanding, it's changing, it's still hitting the young and the old. So I'm seeing people masked up again, and I was like, oh God, no, because many of them shops had just managed to come back. And if they try again to do what they did before, which was to keep everybody at home, those shops can't make it. And if they do, and this time I think if they do it, I don't think people will listen because they lost everything. And yet people were rallying, 2,000-3,000 people at a time, not a mask in sight. I think maybe the police were masked up, but I don't remember it being that way. I was horrified by what was allowed. I kept saying, where's the National Guard? Where's the militia? Well, that was the other thing I wanted to get onto today, which is our lovely southern border, which Biden, on the day he took office, stopped all construction on. And anyone who wanted to come to America through these means could do so. Now, we've absorbed, they estimate, and I think the estimate is only half, but 11 million in the last 3 years. And he said, and they give you $1,500. I love that part. You can't even get tax money back, but they're giving people from. You can't make this stuff up. And they're flooding Oklahoma, they're flooding Nevada, they're flooding New Mexico, they're flooding Texas. And it seemed like California was that much, but those particular states had been screaming for years before they started the border wall. And when they started the border wall, they started seeing a trickle down. Now, they've been apparently these coyotes, these, I don't know, the mobs from Mexico have been doing atrocious things, including killing some of the border agents off and on for decades. And I saw that there was supposed to be a standoff, that they were expecting 700,000 truck drivers to come and bring their trucks. And that's how much area they can't, it's supposed to be covered that they're coming through, is that 700 miles. So they were going to make a barrier with their trucks for that 700 miles. Because again, the president would not seemingly relent to stop this. They're shooting people, they're killing people for stuff. They're thieves and so forth. We don't even know how many terrorists came through. Just this week alone, when one of the border agents was talking to a group of people that they had stopped and said they would have to go back, and was trying to get their names, and they got to this one guy and what is your name and where are you from? And this guy looked at him very arrogantly and said, you don't need my name now. You will have my name soon enough. And I'm like, okay, here comes global jihad, because we again have no idea how many terrorists came through. It only took 5 on 9/11. Okay, 5. Okay. And same with October 7th. They look like maybe they have what, 30, 40 terrorists running through there and killed a couple thousand people. This has to stop. You can't do this. You can't run your country like this. You run it straight in the ground. You take the money from the hardworking Americans who were born and raised here. You won't let the people in that are refugees from a war like the Ukraines. Oh no, we don't have time for that. We don't. No, we can't afford to. So, and I liked Governor Abbott. I love Texas. There's no gas tax, there's no food tax, things that you shouldn't have to pay. Have been and always have been as long as I've been down there, which was the late 70s, early 80s. So you don't pay these taxes, and yet these people are being poured in, even by bus and so forth. They were just bringing them. New York finally put up a barrier of buses themselves, kind of like what the truck drivers want to do, to not let them bring buses in and unload these people anymore. And I feel so bad for them. They find bodies floating in the river almost every day. These coyotes are killing them. It's costing $5,000, from what I understand, per person to get in, to walk across the river or whatever point. The National Guard was finally called out there by Governor Abbott. They came out with concertina wire and got that set up, and they're trying to get the wall built and so forth. There's an island out there between us and Mexico. I can't remember the name of the island, but it's there. There's like one concrete building there, and it's full of holes from where they fought before. But the cartels will hang out there like a middle ground to process these immigrants who are coming across. God help that they have children. One guy was going around and he was doing it to show that mostly what they were letting in or who they were letting in weren't, because they made this big deal that it's families and they can't eat and this kind of thing. So that, $1,500 for each kid. I don't know, whatever it was, but they're getting all this money and phones. And I want any immigrant that needs to run away for something to be able to come through here, but they should do it legally like every other one does, especially the war refugees. They don't get to just come here. It takes a long time. They have to learn English and they have to pay money to do this. And they're getting money. They're getting aid. So why not go? I mean, it's crazy. I'd be nuts if I wasn't in that line and I didn't live here already. But when that guy said what he did, I knew then, and I'd been screaming it anyway before 9/11 that terrorists were coming, because when I was in Europe, I had just left the Rome airport, Roma, when that massacre happened and they killed everybody inside there, and it's just horrific to know that and people don't seem to understand these massacres started in the 70s. It was the PLO, was the first terrorist organization. And they sat on the freaking UN. That blew me away right there. I was like, oh, yeah, you're going to get everybody that attacks everybody else. Everybody's with them. You're going to attack with. No. They're sitting on the board with them. Yemen, terrorists. Iran, terrorists. They're still sitting on the UN. What is up with that? When Trump was president, he wouldn't pay who? It was $1.9 million a year for UNESCO, which was going to the Palestinian people, which is what the Hamas terrorists took to build all these tunnels that you can ride a golf cart through, and much more. Electricity, everything, air, all that, blast doors, all that was done with our taxpayer. That we paid them to build schools, to build hospitals. No, they built tunnels. Now they know this, and our country has already stopped. I think Britain has already stopped contributing to this. But they found that the people that were in, it was called, it's UNRWA, I think, UNRWA, I'm not sure anyway. They found that people that were running this place that would help people, that would, like I said, build these things, if you need something in school, whatever it was used for, I don't know. But they had a lot of money every year. They found out that several of the people that worked for these headquarters to give out this money were in the attack on not on our attack, rather on October 7th. They were there. They were there. So if they were there, how many times do you think that they're not going to hit us? Okay, people have forgotten already 9/11. If you ask me, I don't see the damage and the deaths at the Pentagon. I don't see the fatalities from the Philadelphia field, Farmers Field. And the last thing we got from them was, we're going to take it. And I believe the pilot heard the commotion and just hit the ground instead. That one was headed for the White House. And it didn't make it because those kids got up and tried to stop them. But they're not, it's like they're not there. I don't know what's up with that. So you've got, President Trump suspended all that. He said, no, we're not giving any money to do that. And we gave the money to develop I don't know what you want to call it, flu. I mean, it was an influenza type in any event, this COVID-19. We've paid them to do this, and now we got to pay billions more to save as many as we can. Europe was hit horrifically. Thousands of people a day were dying, in particular in Italy. It smacked them really bad. But millions of people died. I've not even heard them say a count of how many people were lost. And so, at this point, I can't agree with giving these people any money. They had one job. One job. The UN has one job. What is the UN's charter? You attack one, you attack us all. And what has the UN done in decades? Anybody show of hands? Not a blooming thing. Not a bleeding thing have they bothered to do with, except for, I guess that's why they all live in mansions, and everybody they know's got money or whatever. It's the most blatant way of destroying the country from the inside in front of your face that I've ever seen. And I'm not a spring chicken. And I think people need to wake up and take their government back. One city actually did this. The town hall changed the locks on the doors because they wanted to talk to them about what was going on at the school with their children, because Muslim was being practiced here. They were teaching their kids the Quran, the prayer mat, this type of thing. At home, their parents were Baptist or Christian or Catholic. You can see there's a problem here. And when they went in to say this at town halls, they were pulled out and thrown in jail. Well, they had enough of that because those people are elected by whatever city or county, excuse me, that they are taking care of, So they said, okay, that's fine. And like they said, they locked them out. So they went right on in there as soon as people started going through for work that morning, I guess, and had them all locked up. Had them, everyone removed from power, already had somebody else to put in place, and literally fired them and put them in jail to be investigated for theft. Now, I like that town. I like that town. People, that's what every one of us have to do. None of us want to, because everybody's going to work 9 to 5 trying to do that second job. The wife's already got the second job. They're too busy buying those new cars and paying them off for 7 years. You get a home, it's 15, 20 years. So by the time you recover from any of that, you're toast, you're done. They have also wanting to change the money to the electronic currency. Once you do that, all they got to do, and there was one Chinese girl this week that I saw this happen to. She said something online, something, I don't remember what it was she said, but apparently the powers that be in China did not agree with her and they turned her off. Basically, I mean, it froze her accounts. She couldn't get into her car. She could not get into her apartment. Her phone would not work because they cut her off. Now, I'm not going to stand back and say, sure, you can just put this in my hand. Hells no. What the hell? What the hell? No, I'm not going to stand there and let them do that. And I hope everybody else that's out there has an opinion and throw that at me because I'm fairly curious about that one too. What was the other one? I remember, besides the fact I saw that camel. It was camels were floating for God's sakes. I still haven't seen that again. I would love to see a clip of that. I had a question, and I had it back in the Clinton days. They were out supposedly in Antarctica, and they were walking along, and it's supposed to can find fragments of meteors or whatever. And then they file where they got them and put them away. And some other day they take them out, look at them again, apparently. So this girl had done just that and found that she had actually discovered a rock from Mars. Now, I don't know if you remember the Clintons. That was the 80s. I didn't like them for various reasons. What I wanted to know was how this woman could pick up a rock and say, oh, this is a Mars rock. They had a press conference on this. They literally, Clinton had a press conference to discuss the finding of a Mars rock found on Earth. I mean, riddle me that, Batman. How in bloody hell did they know they got a Mars rock? How? Not in the 80s. We weren't sending nothing up there. I don't think there was anyway. And if they did, I don't know about them coming back. I'm rather curious if anybody else heard what the heck. I mean, because that one bugs me too. There's a bunch of those little things, but I see my time is about up here. I'm trying to keep my channel up. I enjoy the heck out of this, guys. I really do. And I love meeting every one of you and talking to all of you. Without your help, without your backing, this could not be done. And I must say, it's a wonderful, wonderful way of beautiful minds to meet every day and talk about anything and nothing. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. I love that. I don't get out as much as I used to. And I've always been a very talkative person. Well, after boot camp. I didn't care after boot camp. You don't like what I'm listening to? Go over there. Anything of that. Like, subscribe, tickle the bell. They love this stuff. It helps the channel, helps the algorithms. And I went with the Lady Hippie moniker, of course, because of my age. And so the merchandise I wanted to get to go along with that would be along those lines, like the 70s. The tie dye and things like that. If there's any other ideas, throw them down there in the comments for me. As soon as I can lock in a time. Right now, I just live stream and I hope everybody was up and maybe can catch it. And in the evenings, I try to put it up on Facebook if I have 2 minutes. And so, unfortunately, and as you can see, I'm on two systems still. So I hate to say good day again, but I love saying good morning. So, everybody out there, you are so appreciated very, very much. And I can't wait to see what y'all said in the comments. Go have a great day, everybody. Okay, in the camp.